The restaurant smelled faintly of roasted coffee and warm pastries, but for David, a successful CEO who had mastered the art of reading numbers and contracts, the world outside his glass office felt like a distant memory. Tonight, he was here for a blind date, set up by a well-meaning friend who insisted he needed a fresh start. David had long ago stopped believing in fairy tales, love at first sight, or happy endings. His life was filled with board meetings, late-night emails, and fleeting encounters that never lingered. But something in the way his friend had smiled, insisting this date was different, made him agree. He walked into the dimly lit corner of the restaurant, scanning the room with a practiced neutrality, as if assessing a boardroom rather than a woman. Little did he know that across the room, waiting awkwardly at the table, sat a woman whose presence would shake the very foundations of his carefully constructed life. Emily had spent the past few years rebuilding herself after heartbreaks that had left her feeling invisible and unworthy. She had been strong, resilient, and fiercely independent. Yet life had a way of humbling even the toughest hearts. Tonight she came to the restaurant not for a date, not for romance, but because her best friend had insisted she at least try to have fun. She felt the usual nervous flutter in her stomach, the anticipation of the unknown, and an unexplainable sense that this night might change everything. Before the date officially began, the camera of fate seemed to focus sharply on them. David sat down, expecting a stranger, with polite smiles and cautious conversation. Emily looked up and froze. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stop. There was recognition buried beneath the surface. Memories of laughter, shared dreams, and whispered promises that neither of them had expected to resurface. He didn't recognize her immediately, though. Years had changed them both. Emily's hair had grown longer, her face softer, yet imbued with strength, and her eyes carried the kind of warmth and wisdom that only time and hardship could instill. David's eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned her with curiosity. Something familiar tugged at him, a ghost from a past life he had buried deep beneath ambition and cynicism. If you believe in kindness, second chances, or the magic of unexpected reunions, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It means the world. Emily forced herself to smile, hiding the swell of emotion rising within her. She had known David once, years ago, before life's cruel twists and turns had separated them. Back then, he had been a young man with a dream and a stubborn sense of idealism. She had been a young woman with hope and laughter, convinced that the world could be kind if only one dared to trust it. Their paths had diverged sharply. David buried himself in business while Emily faced heartbreak after heartbreak. She never imagined she would see him here, in this familiar yet strange setting, where the world had slowed just enough to let fate intervene. The conversation began cautiously, polite questions exchanged over steaming cups of tea and the soft clinking of silverware. Yet with every word, every subtle gesture, the invisible thread of the past tugged tighter around them. David found himself intrigued by her voice, the way she spoke with quiet confidence, the slight tremor that hinted at vulnerability beneath her strength. He could not place it, yet something in her essence stirred memories he had long tried to suppress. Laughter shared on rainy afternoons, late-night talks about dreams that had felt so important then. He dismissed the thought as nostalgia, a trick of familiarity in a sea of strangers. Emily, on the other hand, could not ignore the past. Each glance at David sent ripples through her heart. She remembered his kindness, his gentle humor, and the way he had once made her feel seen in a world that often overlooked her. She wrestled with the mix of emotions, anger, longing, hope, and a profound sadness for what had been lost. Yet she remained poised, careful not to let her heart betray itself too soon. She wanted to see if the man before her was truly David, or just a stranger who happened to wear his face. The restaurant hummed softly around them, strangers moving in a blurred rhythm, oblivious to the storm of emotion in that quiet corner. Emily reached for her glass, brushing her fingers lightly across the table, and met David's gaze again. The world seemed to narrow to that single electrifying moment. Recognition sparked like a lightning bolt, sudden and undeniable. Their eyes met fully this time, and David froze. He could see it. the spark, the memory, the woman he had loved once and lost, staring back at him across the years. His breath caught, and for the first time in a long time, the carefully constructed walls around his heart began to crumble. The memories flooded in. The way she had smiled when he had told a terrible joke, the quiet determination she showed when everyone else had doubted her, the long walks under the city lights where they had shared dreams too fragile for reality to hold. How had life allowed them to meet here, like two lost ships suddenly finding each other in the vast, chaotic ocean of existence? Questions swirled, yet he found no words. All that mattered was the raw, undeniable truth reflected in her gaze. This was Emily, and she had returned to him in a way neither could have anticipated. David's hand trembled slightly as he reached across the table, almost instinctively, and brushed against hers. Emily flinched but did not pull away. The simple touch spoke volumes. Words unnecessary, explanations redundant. The universe had orchestrated this reunion with precise, deliberate intention, and neither could deny the surge of emotion rising within them. It was as if the years of separation, heartbreak, and struggle had been mere shadows, clearing the path for this singular, defining moment. Their conversation deepened, flowing beyond the superficialities of a first encounter. They shared their journeys, the triumphs, the failures, the heartbreaks that had shaped them. Emily spoke of the years she had spent rebuilding her life, learning to trust herself, and discovering strength she had never known existed. David revealed the loneliness behind the facade of power, the nights spent wondering if he had sacrificed too much in pursuit of ambition. And as they spoke, the invisible bond that had once connected them wove itself anew, stronger and more resilient than ever. Outside, the world moved on without pause, but inside that quiet corner of the restaurant, time seemed suspended. David realized he had been searching for something intangible for years, a connection deeper than wealth, status, or success. He had found it now, staring across the table at the woman he had loved, lost and unknowingly hoped to find again. Emily felt the same, her heart opening to the possibility that this reunion was not just coincidence, but a second chance carefully disguised as fate. The night wore on, filled with laughter, quiet confessions, and the comforting silence of shared understanding. By the time they rose to leave, the bond between them was undeniable, a tapestry woven from past memories and present hope. The city lights outside reflected in their eyes, illuminating a future neither could have predicted, but both were eager to explore. They walked out into the crisp night, shoulders brushing, hearts beating in synchrony, knowing that this night had changed everything. And as they parted at the doorstep, neither willing to let the moment end, David finally spoke the words that had been trapped in his heart for years. He told Emily that seeing her again, even after all the years, had reminded him of what truly mattered, that love, patience, and second chances were not just fantasies, but real, tangible, and worth fighting for. Emily smiled, tears brimming in her eyes, and whispered her gratitude for a night that had restored hope in ways she had almost forgotten were possible. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that second chances and kindness can change lives. Your engagement helps bring more stories like this to life. Before you go, leave a comment below sharing your own experiences with unexpected reunions or moments where fate seemed to intervene. It could inspire someone today. As they walked into the night together, hand in hand, they knew one thing for certain. Life had given them a gift, one that neither ambition nor heartbreak could ever take away. And in the quiet hum of the city, their hearts beat in a rhythm that spoke louder than words, the language of second chances, of love rediscovered, and of hope reborn.